Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Dual Screens podcast. I am one of your hosts, Stephen Fontana, and with me, as always, he's in that other box. He's Andy Asimakis. How are you, Andy?
You know what I like best of being a dog owner, Stephen?
What's that?
Is that at any time during the day, if I'm laying in bed with my fiance, there is a maximum of 6 balls on my bed at any given time, and that fact just makes me so happy.
And you're not getting
So
rid
good.
of you're not castrating the little bugger.
No,
huh?
I may get into that later.
Yeah, because
Maybe
he's
later.
gonna ruin some of those plushies you got on your shelf.
Because
think.
I've gone back and forth on that for quite a bit of time, but we
Right.
can dive into that with our guest
Oh.
in a little bit.
Oh my! You just don't want to take away his manhood. It's okay, Andy. We all go through it eventually. You know, some of us get married, some of us get castrated.
I mean,
our balls are going away one way or the other.
I gotta find my manhood first before I decide to take away someone else's. So that's also a problem.
Joining us this week, who I'm sure is regretting every bit of that decision at this point, is Olivia Dunlap, developer of To the Rescue, a charming, and I mean charming, dog shelter simulator. Olivia, welcome to the show.
Hi, yes, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm not regretting it yet.
Not yet.
We'll
No.
see.
We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I don't know how much. It depends how much ball testicle talk there is, or
Listen,
dog testicle talk. We'll
the
see.
bullet points, every other thing is like
Right.
balls. So.
Right. Sure.
Okay,
Sure.
okay. I'm
Well,
ready.
okay. Tennis balls and I get it.
Right. Sure.
Dog
yeah, we'll go with
toys
that.
and stuff like that. Sure. For those of you that are new to the Dual Screens podcast, just like Olivia is, this is the world's #1 indie developer interview podcast, probably. Everyone in the gaming industry, be it a programmer, an artist, a voice actor, a PR rep, or a producer, everybody has a story to tell, and we want to be their platform to tell that story. The Dual Screens podcast posts each and every Friday for your listening pleasure on your podcast service of choice, including our home, podbean.com. We're also on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, iHeartRadio, and everything else, literally everywhere. And you could find the video version of the podcast on youtube.com/dualscreens TV. Now, Andy, we're going to do the thing. I'm going to put this ball on a tee. There we go. Back to the balls. Onto a tee. And it is time for our ceremonial lead-off question of the show. Go ahead, sir.
Olivia, why are dogs better than cats?
Wow. Oh man, that is an answer that I don't have because I actually love both of them.
Indeed.
Well,
I'm one of those people who.
I mean, you could love a cat. I love
That's
cats,
true.
but if I was to have a choice,
Right. So,
That's true. I love both. We're definitely more of a dog household though because
Sure.
we have 2 dogs and 1 cat, so I guess they're just outnumbered at this point.
actions speak
Um,
louder than words. Make it a dog game, not a cat game. Just saying
That's
it.
true. That's true. Well, I mean, there's something about like the sort of different types of. I mean, cats have lots of personality too, but I grew up with dogs, so like I just know dogs better.
yeah, you know, I have a little cat story I'd like to tell because this happened yesterday, and for our video viewers, or you could see it. I have some scratches on my arm. There we go. I'll show it to the camera if you could see it. There we go. It's got a bunch of scratches. They look way worse in person than on camera. But so I have 2 cats, and one of them is very small. She's about 7 pounds. She's a dainty little thing, and she's a wonderful cat. A lot of people like to say that dogs are like they have, like you said, like they have a different personality. They're very personable. They're very whatever. Like my cats have always been very personable, but my cat decided to follow me into one of our rooms here that has one wall is painted black. Okay. And she gets up on the top of the chair, like the headrest of the chair, and I see her looking like she's about to jump into the wall. Now, mind you, this is a solid wall that goes up to a ceiling. There is not a painting on it. There is not a shelf on it. There is nothing on it. So at first I'm thinking, okay, maybe it's a spider. Maybe it's something. I'm looking. I see nothing. So I say, you can't go on there. And I put her down. She goes back up. And now she's really determined to get up on the thing. So I say, you know what? I'm going to let you figure this out on your own. Okay. So she jumps, slams her head into the ceiling, slides down the wall, like grabbing with her claws. I catch her as she falls. That's when she scratches me up because she was trying to catch herself. And I put her down. She was like, oh, what the hell was that? I think she thought that the black wall had a top to it, But it's never a dull moment with cats either, because they'll keep you on your toes for sure. I've never seen a dog jump into a ceiling. Just put it that way.
I don't know. I feel like this puppy we have right now would definitely do. Like he maybe not ceilings, but definitely walls. He definitely has he has this problem lately where he forgets that things that he's not looking at are there, because he will just like take off running down the hallway and turn around and look behind him.
Oh
and
yeah,
just run straight into the wall.
Yeah. Well,
like
to be fair,
times.
my 3-year-old daughter does that too.
Yeah,
So
I do that too.
Yeah, like that's not. So let's talk about To the Rescue. Okay, why don't you give our listeners the elevator pitch? What is To the Rescue?
You got it. So To the Rescue is a dog shelter simulator game that we are developing here at Little Rock Games, and the sort of whole conceit is that the player is the sort of sole manager of a dog shelter. And they have to take care of everything. They have to take care of the dogs. They have to manage, building new buildings. They have to handle their funds, and with their whole end goal being to take care of the dogs, but also to get them adopted and to match them up with adopters. And yeah, so that's the game, but we're also planning on donating part of the proceeds to actual dog shelters as part of it, because
that's awesome.
Because we're making a shelter game, but we're also trying to raise awareness, and so as part of that, we want to put our money where our mouth is, sort of.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I do some work locally for an animal shelter. It's Brooklyn Animal Action. They're mostly for stray cats, because Brooklyn has a very big stray cat problem, to be honest. There's massive amounts of colonies and everything like that, and talking to it's all volunteer. Nobody's a paid worker. It's all volunteer, and all of the local vets basically volunteer to have to work on the cats that are strays. They neuter them, they spay them, they give them their shots, and then there's a small adoption fee. But when you talk to these people that work at these shelters or volunteer to foster, or even the vets that I've spoken to, because I've been to 2 separate vets, it's a completely thankless job, and there is so much that is involved in running a program like that. Where did you guys get the experience to make this into a game? Is there somebody on your team that volunteers or runs a shelter? Like, how did you guys get the knowledge to make this game?
That's actually an interesting question, because it's sort of weird for us to answer, because we first started working on it having almost no experience. We were just surprised that this sort of game didn't exist. But then as we did just general research and talk to people, we realized that there's lots of different cool things that we could represent with the game. But we did have lots of friends, because we started working on it in like early undergrad, and we had lots of friends who we had a dog, and so we couldn't really do much with fostering and things like that.
Right.
We had lots of friends who were constantly talking about it. They were constantly fostering dogs. We interacted with these dogs, and we helped them, pick them up and, do these sorts of things. And so we just, so a lot of it was secondhand, or just through talking with people. And also just from seeing, our local shelters getting, these sort of sponsorships and getting to talk to them at events and things like that. So yeah, most of our experience is actually really secondhand, and part of that is us wanting to have that sort of impact without really being able to have the sort of hands-on like help, because we wanted to, having all this sort of like hearing about all these things that they needed, this sort of value that they got out of fosters and stuff like that we weren't able to do. But
Right.
What we did want to do is make a game. So
yeah, I mean, that's awesome. Go ahead,
What
Andy.
does the core gameplay loop look like in this? Like, when a dog first arrives at the shelter, how do we go through the motions of its arrival, the care of the dog, and then eventually getting it into an adopter's hands in the game?
Yeah, so there's a couple different steps of the process, right? And we're representing some parts of the reality of it more detailed than others. But yeah, so when a new dog arrives, the first thing you have to do is put it somewhere. And that means you have to handle your sort of organizing of your kennels and things like that. That's a big part of it, is sort of Tetrising your kennels and making sure you have room for all the dogs. Which also means things like putting dogs together sometimes, but sometimes their personalities don't mesh, and you have to pay attention to that sort of thing.
This sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah. So the first thing you have to worry about is where they're going, and if you have room for them at all. And then you have to feed them and make sure they have water and things like that, which are sort of upkeep tasks that you have to do for like all the dogs. All dogs need water and they all need food, but some dogs like different kinds of foods. That's another thing you have to pay attention to.
Right.
Because a lot of the core gameplay loop really comes down to learning what your dogs need. Because there's differences in the sort of personalities and the sort of things that they're the nutritional needs and things like that. So really the main gameplay is just going to be taking in dogs, processing them, and trying to figure out who needs what and where they're at. And waiting for adopters to come in, because whenever adopters come in, essentially what you need to do is drop everything and see if you can get one of your dogs adopted. And there's a whole process behind that too, because they'll come in looking for specific things that you may or may not have in the shelter. If you match those things, you're more likely to get a dog adopted. But it really comes down to you trying to think about, what dogs. Not only do you think that the adopter was most likely to adopt, but also dogs that might have a chance with this adopter that might not have a chance with other adopters, and so you have to choose sort of and think about that as well.
So is there like an adoptability like score or something like that? Like when you're doing everything right for that dog, does their adoptability go up? So you're kind of managing the way I'm kind of imagining it is like there's like this timer of here's when adopters are going to come. Here's the time you have to get your dogs, basically show ready, as it were. And then adopters come in and you're trying to match them up and all that stuff. Like what's the check boxes for essentially the reward? What's the reward here? Is it getting them adopted? Is it getting bigger so you could have more? Like what's your eventual goal?
Yeah, that's both of those things you said were exactly right. So dogs do have an adoptability, and it's actually sort of interesting how you have to think about adoptability, because dogs have different traits, right? And some of those traits are more desirable in general than others. So if you have a dog that is already trained when they come into the shelter and they're healthy and they're young and they're like a purebred dog or whatever, their base adoptability is going to be really high. Like, so I think the highest for us is 5 stars as an example. But their current level of what they look like to adopters is dependent on how well you take care of them. So they have a potential of getting up to based on their traits, but depending on how well you take care of them, and so that's really the main thing you have to think about with adopters, because matching up with the things the adopters are looking for is really just giving them a bonus on that, as opposed to being the primary thing that determines whether they get adopted. And so your goal to get them adopted is it feels a couple different purposes, right? One is space, because that's really the most important resource you have to manage with the shelter, is having enough space to keep taking care of the new dogs that come in. So that's one thing, so adoptions are important to free up space. Also, you mentioned earlier adoption fees. That's a thing too, is that's the primary way to get basic income for your shelter is through adoption. So those are really why they're really important, and why they're the most important thing in the game really is to look for these moments, because it's also it essentially it gives you all of your resources that you need.
Right.
My light is flashing.
Do you get more money for an adoption fee the better you do for that dog? Like if the dog is like maxed out 5 out of 5 stars and it's a perfect match, do they pay more so that you could, or is it just flat across as long as you get them adopted?
It's just a flat fee.
Okay.
But there's other ways that taking care of dogs well can get you other sources of income. So there's a couple different things there. Like there's a system in the game called grants. So some grants, you can apply for grants, and then if you meet whatever requirements are on them, usually those requirements are related to how well you take care of the dog. So
sure.
So that's a thing. But also it's just a matter of chances, right? Because each dog you show the adopter has, like, essentially it contributes to whether or not they're going to get adopted. So each an individual star like rating that you bring to the adoption means that the adoption is more likely to happen at all.
Right. Okay.
It's funny how I'm listening to all this and I can get a clear picture of what success looks like, how you're adopting dogs and you're taking in fees, and you can expand your business, get take in more dogs than you can, so that leads to more profits and all that fun. You can upgrade all that stuff. But I'm wondering, in my sick, twisted mind, does this game have a failure state? Like, if I am
the
thinking
worst.
back. I'm thinking back. Yeah, there's
Are
that.
there going to be Tamagotchi corpses?
No. I'm thinking back to like my Nintendo days where
Oh, no.
I'd be at the thing every single day, and then new games come. You put it aside for a day or two.
Oh, no.
Then years go by, and you think, if I turn this thing on, it's gonna be a pile of bones.
Aw.
And it's like Schrodinger's dog. Like, it's still alive if I don't turn it on yet.
Yeah. So
If you're terrible at this game, you don't feed the dogs, if you give them water, you overcrowd them. Does it get bad? Do we see
it does get bad. So we do see it get bad because it's really important to show that if shelters don't have room and they don't have funding to expand, that it just is like a snowballing problem, right? So so there's lots of different ways you can sort of think about end states or like failure states. I will just go ahead and say that the dogs aren't gonna like waste away and starve to death on you. They like their sort of minimum care is like essentially just they're just really unhappy, right? But one important thing too, because they talked about resources earlier, talked about space as resource, talking about money as resource. A really important thing for us in this game, and that a lot of I think sim games sort of ignore, but that I really wanted us to do with this game is to talk about the placement of the shelter in the community. So you have a reputation that you have to maintain as well. So, and you can lose reputation. So dogs can be entered a state of neglect through a couple different reasons. If they're sick, if they're starving, if they're, there's a couple different ways they can be considered to be neglected. And then you can get fees put on your shelter, but also if you keep doing that over and over again, the community is going to know that, hey, this shelter isn't taking care of their dogs.
Right.
And that means that maybe less new people are going to come into the shelter because they don't want to support you or whatever. So that's also really important. So in addition to making it easier to get the adoptions so that you can get that income, you have to maintain your reputation, and that also means that you can't go around euthanizing every dog in your shelter that you don't want to take care of.
Right. There's
So,
like an angry pitchfork mob at some point.
Yeah. Is that you don't want the local vegans to break in and try and steal all the dogs. Former vegan here, by the way. So you said euthanize. Like, are you like if a dog doesn't get adopted, you could be left with the choice of having to euthanize the animals? Yeah,
that is something that from really early in working on this game that we really wanted to include. Not because we want to force people to murder dogs, because nobody wants to do that.
But it's real. That's what happens at these shelters.
Exactly. So. And because the awareness is like really, really important to us, and we don't want to sacrifice the sort of opportunity to show people the sort of reasons why a shelter might not have a choice.
Right.
Because we also like avoid talking about shelters in the game in terms of like no kill or whatever, right? Because the thing is that in a lot of shelters do not have a choice, like especially municipal shelters, right? A lot of no-kill shelters just are closed admission, and so a lot of dogs, they end up having to go somewhere, and if those shelters don't have money to take care of them, they literally don't have any choice, right? And that's not always the case. Obviously, I'm not saying that every shelter that kills dogs has a reason to do it. Right?
No, of course.
Right.
But we also wanted to show that maybe in some cases those shelters are the ones that need support the most. And if you and I just also want to say that like there's lots of ways in the game, like that's basically a very, very last resort thing,
right? And
it has this huge reputation, so you can't really use it as like a day-to-day like way to solve your problem,
right?
That's how I save some space. That's
yeah, exactly.
Get a few, I'm getting a few more in.
But if you have no
fresh
choice,
ones,
like if you have nothing but like 1-star dogs, right, and they're not getting adopted over and over again, and you're having to feed them, right, and then like a disease breaks out in the shelter, and then those are really expensive to treat, you might not have a choice, and then you might have to deal with the sort of social repercussions for that. But I also want to say, just before I talk about too much more, it is optional. There's a setting you can turn off.
Oh, okay.
The settings. You don't want that to be in the game at all if you just don't want to, because we don't want to traumatize people. But
it's like hard mode.
But it is really important for us to leave that in the game, because there's a lot of different things wrapped up in representing that is sort of important to us.
Are there like untrainable dogs that like get I mean here in New York, there's not that many dogs, but like if a dog is one has a reputation for attacking or whatever,
Yeah.
they're pretty much right on the list to be put down unless they could find a place that's going to rehabilitate them or something like that. Like, is there a mechanic for that?
Sort of. So there are traits in the game that dogs can have that are really, really negative. So one of them is like bites, for example. And we're not super explicit with a lot of these.
Right.
But if a dog bites, they're almost never going to be able to be above a certain level of adoptability,
Okay.
right? And so if you still might be able to find an adopter that can take them, and there are going to be certain events in the game that are things like exactly like you said, like rehabilitators that come through that you can pay a fee to help
Okay.
solve this problem. It's usually really expensive though, so but that's definitely an option. So we are representing those things. Some of them a little bit more detailed than others. But yeah, there are a lot of dogs that have negative traits or dogs that don't get along with other dogs and can cause fights and things like that. So yeah, it's something we're paying attention to. It's not something that's going to be, again, super common all the time in the
Right.
shelter, but you might occasionally have to deal with something like that.
Yeah.
But the 1-star dogs can be a 5-star dog at some point with enough training or
It depends.
or intervention on outside sources or influences.
Yeah, it really depends. So like so some sorts of traits can potentially be trained out of them. Some of them can't. Like if a dog has cancer, for example.
Right. You're not gonna bring a dog whisperer and be
yeah.
like,
Exactly.
or
So
a spray bottle. Stop having cancer.
and there's a lot of people that, if they're gonna adopt a dog, they don't want to have to handle a dog that might, have these health problems. So health problems are one thing that's a big one that you can't really get rid of, and that's really hard to find. But occasionally there might be an adopter that says, hey, I'm okay with a dog that has this negative trait, right? And then they might have a more likely chance. So there, you can never really turn a 2-star dog into a 5-star dog. And there's only limited ways that you can actually affect their traits at all. Just based on the sort of resources you have available to you. But there are little ways, so there's always a chance, right? And also, so I mentioned like each star contributes to the adoption, right? If you show an adopter 4 5-star dogs and 1-1-star dog, there's a chance that they're going to grab that 1-star dog. It just depends on
the runt of the litter.
It's yeah. I mean, it's less likely, right?
Yeah. I want the black sheep.
And it's sort of a strategic choice, right? Because you have to have your total number of stars say, have them say, hey, I'm going to adopt, right? And then they're going to pick one based on how much they contributed, but so you can try and get it exactly enough with those lower star dogs if you're really strategic about it.
How do the NPCs or customers communicate their desires for a dog? Is it just the icons that you're looking for?
Oh, yeah, they just tell you.
Oh, okay.
It's really simplified, right? So they just come in and say, hey, I'm looking for a dog that has X, right?
Okay.
And that's just to keep it easy because, we don't want it to be too much of a puzzle really to figure that out. They will have different sorts of personality. Sometimes, like some people will be a lot more unsure whether they want to adopt at all. Some of them will be really excited and they'll adopt the first dog they see. But generally they'll just tell you exactly what they're looking for.
Is there an end game or is it like just kind of open-ended, just play?
Sort of. So there is going to be a story in the game with sort of a conclusion. But it's also after that, it's just going to be sort of a sandbox, right? Where you can keep playing as long as you want, keep expanding the shelter.
That's awesome.
So I think you're also working on the story as well, Olivia. What is this game's overall plot? What's, I get there's a shelter, but is there a person with a name that has some sort of goal or a backstory with this whole shelter? What's that like? Yeah,
so right now I'm actually I've literally been working on that the last 2 weeks. We've made a big push for the story in the game. And essentially the player is a person who is just trying to make a difference. They just moved to a new town, they have a dog, they find a stray dog that they end up taking care of. And then it ends up just escalating until they end up being recruited to work at this brand new shelter that opens in their town. And it gets opened as part of a pilot program. And so the mayor of the town is constantly giving you these goals and is trying to make sure that it's makes a big impact on the community. So the story has a lot of that sort of community integration as a theme as well. So And yeah, that's sort of the general thing. And the story isn't like the most important part of the game to us. Like it's not a super story centric game,
Right.
but we still wanted to frame the player as somebody who is trying to make a difference. Like that's just because we want them to sort of feel like a hero, sort of
Sure.
for being the one to do this. You know, like because.
It kind of has that that reluctant hero situation where you want to help, but you didn't want to be thrust into being the only, like the one solely responsible for it. And you kind of that's a neat way of getting a new player who doesn't know how to play the game to be in the same shoes as the actual character, where they don't know what they're doing either, and you're both going to learn together. And while this mayor, this puppet master, is just throwing goals at you like a jerk. Like, I want every single person in this town to have a dog, damn it. Like, jeez.
No, that is a good platform to run off of.
I was just about to say I would vote for them.
Yeah, that is a good platform.
Not owning a dog is a character flaw, damn it.
But yeah, no, Steven, that's a really good. That's like exactly what we're going for, right? This reluctant hero is exactly how I'd put it too. Is this person who cares, and also, but nobody else is willing to put in the work or is able to, right? And so, I mean, I guess technically at one point in the game you can hire helpers, like AI helpers that will come help you out. But
that was actually gonna be my next question.
Okay, yeah, you can. It's sort of like expensive, and they're not very smart or good at their jobs.
Sure.
But,
well, have you ever seen some of the people that work in shelters? That
yeah,
especially the
they're
ones that volunteer.
right?
Yeah,
I know. It's actually funny. So so generally they're considered to be employees, right? So you do have to have the funding to pay for them. But we're writing in an event where somebody will come and volunteer, and then they'll be there for like a week and then leave. Like that will be the sort of little.
Yeah.
We're also doing lots of little story vignettes like that, like with specific dogs that will come into the shelter over and over again, or with things like that, or with people that will come and be very opinionated about how you're running your business. So like, yeah, there's lots of little stuff like that besides the main. Yeah, there's definitely.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, can someone bring the dog back? Like, let's say they've adopted the dog, and then like a few cycles go by, and then you know what, this didn't work out. Take this thing back. I'm gonna burn down your store.
No, I mean exactly. Like, there's definitely that's something we wanted to represent too, right? These sort of people that and it's not, again, that's not your normal person that wants to adopt a dog, but there are certain people that will just be like, okay, never mind. Like, you know, and then, you know, to have, because we really want to highlight lots of little emotional moments, right? That excitement of like, oh, I got his dog adopted that was really unadoptable. So cool, they're gone now, right? I don't have to worry about them anymore. And then 3 days later they're like, actually I can't, you know. And it's, those sort of highs and lows of trying to deal with that, and especially when you get to know the dogs before you adopt them out really well, and then you know, having to deal with that is I want that to happen.
And then you hunt them down. Dog.
Find their house. Yeah, maybe if you had any time to leave the shelter, you could.
How many kinds of dogs are in this game, like breed wise, can we expect?
Yeah, so a lot. And it's right, I think I'm trying to, it's sort of hard to guesstimate because some of it's based on some of our Kickstarter stuff that's still in the machine. At least 29 though, different.
Wow.
Different ones. And that's I think that's 7 in each breed category plus 1 extra Kickstarter bonus. And then there'll be some unique ones that were our Kickstarter rewards as well, that are just one-off unique dogs that are fully original. And they're all hand animated too, which has been like a huge cool thing, but also a huge thing.
Yeah, that's a task.
I was gonna say, like, in a huge pain in the ass.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not the animator, so I mean, I see all of, because they're amazing. Our animator is, and has just been pumping out these animations, and it's just incredible. And we're ridiculous for deciding to do it this way, I guess. So go ahead.
Is there a randomized element to the dog's traits? Like it kind of just picks from a different stuff, mashes it together, and gives you a dog? And does it do that only in sandbox mode, or does it do that also in the story mode? Or are you guiding the player to do specific needs at specific times?
It sort of depends on what part of the story mode you're at. I think right now it's still sort of up in the air, but right now it's planned to start out with a set number of dogs that you
Sure.
start out with, and then
Mhm.
after that they start being randomized. And
Oh,
there'll
okay.
be events of specific ones that come in that are scripted or whatever. But yeah.
Mm. Are your own dogs in the game? Like, is Olivia's Great Dane somewhere in this
Sort of.
shelter at some point?
We decided not to be greedy and use
Mm.
our limited animation slots to make the exact dogs, but definitely the Great Dane in the game is inspired by our dog. Not exactly, but definitely inspired by. And our sort of mascot dog, the orange sort of Shiba-ish looking dog, with a bandana on, is actually inspired by our artist's dog that died a couple years ago.
Aw,
So
cute.
yeah, so he was like, Cooper's getting in this game or I quit. So we are
Yeah,
like,
It's fair.
How do you say no to that?
That's
It's
fair.
right, I know.
Whatever
it's
you
so,
want. It's cool. Just get it on there.
yeah, and I mean, so dogs are a thing that means so much to so many people, right? And I feel so bad every time somebody emails us that is like, hey, my dog died that I had since I was 5. Could you
Oh
put them
my
in the
God.
game? And it's just, it breaks my heart because we can't, do that for everybody, but I really want to, especially
Right.
because it wouldn't be fair to our Kickstarter backers, right?
Right.
But gosh, yeah, it just means so much to so many people. Which is why we wanted to have so much variety in the game. Like, we didn't want there to be like 5 dogs or whatever.
Yeah.
Or just one dog reskinned 5 times or whatever, just because we wanted to represent all those different personalities, and we wanted to have each dog that visited the shelter feel unique, even if they don't. There's only 29. So they, there are going to be duplicates, but we still wanted them to look and feel different.
Yeah. Do you get like different ages? Like, do you have puppies, but the same? Does that count towards the 29, or is it 29? It does. Okay.
Yeah. So essentially, the way that it works is that we have breed categories and size categories. So each breed category has puppy, small, medium, large, and those are. And then we have like retrievers with those 4, and then
Got it. Okay. Okay.
So there is size category.
Now I understand the math. It's here. I got it now.
Yes, it's a thing.
Have you had any ideas of going out and getting some famous dogs? Like, I don't know, Clifford the big red dog. Get him in there.
We're probably gonna have some nods to dogs like that in the sort of stories that happen, but
that's cute.
No official sponsorships yet, but we're open. We're
very
open
cute.
we've got our ears open.
Listen, you gotta have some video game dogs at some point in there.
Right?
Wishbone.
We can't get Okami.
You gotta have dog meat. You gotta have Shadow, Rush.
Dog meat's easy. You just name it dog meat. Like, I don't think you have.
You just
like,
make it a German Shepherd.
Yeah.
We actually do have, so for one of our Kickstarter tiers, we had somebody could put like an exact version of whatever dog they wanted in the game. One of our backers actually wants like a nod to D-Dog from Metal Gear, so we're gonna have a D-Dog. It's not gonna be literally D-Dog.
Yeah, of course.
Inspired by.
Will he have an iPad? Is all I'm asking.
Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't be D-Dog.
That's all it needs.
There it is. There it is. So I want to talk about, because I didn't go through all of your Kickstarter goals, but do you have any plans or maybe desires to have like a ability for some co-op in this, like drop in and help my friend run his thing for a little bit as like one of the volunteers?
No. It's the short answer. Okay. I would love to do something like that maybe eventually. Like, we have so many ideas for things that this game could expand to do, especially because we have this whole idea of being able to, once you reach a certain level with your shelter, to move on to like another community to help with their shelter and something like that. And there would be sort of interesting room for co-op there, but I just don't think it's within the scope, because we're a real small team and we've been working on this for like years at this point. And at this point, co-op is like, it's a whole thing.
I get Animal Crossing vibes of like, I'm visiting your shelter and I'll help you scoop all your poop.
Yeah.
Whatever. And all right, goodbye. Dude.
I would sabotage your shelter.
I know you would.
No.
I know you would. I know you would.
Is our game going to have the equivalent of doing that thing where you go to someone's Animal Crossing island and you put a stamp on the ground that looks like the fossil hole everywhere?
That's it.
That's the one. Nice. So what are you hoping that happens with this Kickstarter? Like, well, aside from obvious, like, top tier success, but like, what are you deep down really hoping happens throughout this Kickstarter campaign?
Yeah, well, I was going to say our Kickstarter was like a year and a half ago.
Okay.
So
wait
that
a
is
minute.
already.
What did you show me, Andy? Did you show me the Kickstarter
No,
trailer
it was
or
like
the regular?
No, it was like, hey, here's the game. It's like coming out soon.
Oh, okay.
Trailer.
All right. Yeah, I get. So when after
I
Andy
mentioned
shows me a
Kickstarter,
game,
so that's fair.
after
Right.
Andy shows me a game, the first thing I do is look for a Kickstarter because almost everything he shows me is like, let's throw money at this, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll throw money at this.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I'm trying to bankrupt us
sense
one game at a time, Steve.
I know, I understand.
Yeah,
I
I have
understand.
to stay off Kickstarter sometimes because.
Yeah, no, it's a problem. It's a problem. So how did talk about the campaign then? How did it go? Like, what were you happy with the support you got? And
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean we beat our goal by like a significant margin. And we got a little bit too big for our britches and what we thought we could do then. So since that, actually, it's so interesting to me looking at the Kickstarter now because to me it feels like a completely different game. The art style is totally different. We totally did like a whole revamped everything. That was before we got our animator on. And the game has expanded a lot, which is why it's gotten pushed back a few times from that initial Kickstarter date that we were planning on. But the game is so much better now. It's going to be so much better now because of it, I think. So, but yeah, no, we were super excited. I honestly now looking at it now, I'm like, why do people back this game? Like, I don't know.
No. See, I'm gonna say you're wrong because you've seen the game, right? It's
I just think compared to where it is now, like people had so much faith in just the concept, and that's been the really exciting thing for us is that that just the concept has resonated with so many people.
Yeah.
And it also puts a lot of pressure on us to do it to do it in a way that that is earnest, because we do actually care about what we're making this game about, and but I also want it to be a fun game. So, and it's our first actual digital release as a company, so there's a lot of that involved with thinking about this game too.
Yeah. Are you guys feeling like some pressure with that, or is it more just like you're just meeting the challenge and just having fun with the challenge?
I mean, it depends on like that probably changes every day. Like probably one day it's like, oh my god, what are we doing? The next day it's like, this is so awesome that we've gotten the chance to put our heart and soul into something that people love this much, and we should take advantage of that and make something really good. So, no, yeah, we love how much support it's gotten, and that we just got a publisher that we announced I think this month I think we announced it.
Nice.
And they have been doing amazing work helping it just get more reach, because that's the one thing as a company that we have no experience in is the marketing side, and they landed us a Switch deal, so we're going to be doing a Switch release. Which,
yeah,
we're like super excited about.
See, that's how we got the trailer, Steven, because
I think that's
probably
the megaphone happened, and then it's like, now it's spread down.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that makes more sense because for my brain that is made out of mush. Let's switch gears just a little bit. I want to talk about the company, talk about how you guys started this thing, because you did say this is your first digital release, but you have created other product. Go into a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we're sort of a weird company. First of all,
who isn't?
Aren't we all?
Who isn't?
Yeah. So we're Little Rock Games, and you'd probably be surprised to hear that we're based in Little Rock, Arkansas.
Oh yeah.
We're all local here. And we started out just as a way to have an LLC, so that us as a group of friends could actually, have this legal entity where we could actually do these hobbyist projects and maybe see if they went anywhere. And our first project was a board game called Galactic Scoundrels, which we also had success with on Kickstarter. And that was cool. I still think I'm really proud of the work we did on that game. But at the time we were already working on digital projects and stuff like that, and it's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
So I mean we've done that project. We've also done lots of small contract projects for things like museums and things like that, interactive media for them. So we do lots of different stuff, but really it comes down to trying to find resources to be able to build our own projects like this. Because what we really like to do as a company is make things that are super empathetic and that actually are meaningful in really interesting ways, right? So even Galactic Scoundrels, which is just like a storytelling game, right? We designed it in such a way that it's meant to be collaborative, and that was the big thing with that game, is we really wanted to make a collaborative storytelling game where people could, everybody could feel comfortable and like all these sorts of things. And yeah, so that's Let's do To the Rescue is another extension of that, right? Of us wanting to care about things. I guess it's sort of a weird way to put it, but so yeah, so we've been around for a little while, but this is our first public digital release.
What is the game dev scene like there in Arkansas? I'm curious. Like, are you guys like leading the charge in a sense, or what's that community
sort
like?
of? Yeah, there's not a lot. And that was one of the reasons why we wanted to sort of own it with our sort of company name and make it sort of a thing, because there's it's not just us at Little Rock Games. Like, we have like a small community of people here who are great and are constantly coming up with amazing things and trying to help foster that community. But it's really small, and so yeah, and that's another thing we did. I mean, at least prior to COVID, a couple members of our company especially were really trying hard to foster that community, because the thing is that no matter where you are, like, if you talk to somebody and you say you make games, they'll probably be like, "Oh yeah, I have this idea for a game." Like, you know what I mean?
Of course, yeah.
But
Guilty.
I mean, I think it's a great thing, and we wanted to actually have a community where we could be like, "Oh yeah, well, come tell us about it," like, and we'll, and yeah, so. Because it was always the thing, like, growing up wanting to make games, that always felt like a huge wall, right? It's like, oh, I don't live in San Francisco or Toronto or wherever.
Oh man, when we were kids, we're gonna date ourselves. The wall was Japan.
Yeah,
we didn't know anyone here made games. Like, it was like, where is this made? Made in Japan. Got it. Okay, Japan is apparently the planet where the only place video games are made.
Yeah, I mean, but it was just a huge thing, and I always wanted to make something here as opposed to
going somewhere else.
Do the same thing everybody else is. And not that there's any problem with that, right? Of going and finding a job in the industry and and doing your thing, but we were hoping to make it work.
There's enough of that anyway. So do your own thing, and now it's like you're the go-to in Arkansas for game design. It's so cool.
Yeah,
and it is pretty cool, but it's also a pretty low bar. So I try not to get to be too big for myself.
No, COVID's going to change a lot of this too, because a lot of companies are realizing they don't need as much office space, and I think that is a super prohibitive to, especially in our city, in New York City. There's almost nobody here. There's a few indie devs. I think I
got some friends over that were from NYU Game Center. So
we have great programs, but you don't get it's crazy to me that, like, EA doesn't have a studio out of New York, because there's an incredibly rich talent pool here, but those people move. They move from here they go to Boston, they go to Maryland, they go to Toronto, they go to San Francisco, they go to Texas. Like, those are the places where everybody kind of goes to, or Portland. So, like, those are, like, kind of like the areas people go to. But now that COVID's kind of taught people, like, you don't need to spend money on expensive real estate, and you don't have to pay $30,000 for your a month for your rent. Like, you guys can work from home, have a small place that you guys can meet up and do whatever you want to do. So I think it's already changing. Like, we're seeing way more different states and even countries now that are kind of starting to kindle a little bit of a flame for game development. It's really cool to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm a little bit torn about it, right? Because of COVID, our sort of local community has sort of gotten sort of disparate, right? It's still there, but it's not quite the same thing as it was, and it's not growing as fast as it was. But for us as a company, like, all of in addition to the sort of thing that you mentioned with us, people being really okay with us just the way we normally work, but but also online events has been a huge thing for us. Things like Indie Arena booth at Gamescom this year or
Yeah.
last year was huge for us.
Mm.
And that's the sort of thing that we would not have been able to afford to or been able to go to if it was an in-person event, right?
Right.
But having it be an online thing was a huge game changer for us. So yeah, like online events has been really, really huge as well. And I
Yeah.
really hope that after COVID, that sort of thing sticks around, even if
Yeah.
it's not as,
Us too.
universal.
A companion too. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I find them so much easier they're so much more approachable, so much more accessible, like so
Yeah.
many more people can go to them because you just need an internet connection basically, as opposed to $1,000 plus plane ticket,
Yeah. No. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I
and
think
that's
we
coming
learned
from
that.
go ahead.
No, like we did PAX Online this last year. It was just we're in our underwear doing an interview.
Yeah,
I was not in my
Uh,
underwear.
I may have been in my underwear.
No, I definitely this is one of like the random times when I'm not wearing pajamas. So but yeah, I mean that's coming from somebody who went to GDC like 4 or 5 years in a row, and
Yeah.
it was like we saved up all year to be able to
Yeah.
go. And but then this Indie Arena booth is more impactful than all the GDCs we ever went to combined, and and it's just it's
Right.
really
All right. It is now time to get into our rapid fire segment. This is where we're going to get to know you in the
Oh,
deepest
yeah.
parts of your brain and your cerebellum.
Oh yeah.
as long as you don't talk about balls.
No, there are no ball talk. No ball talk. Andy.
All right, I got to rethink all my
Yeah.
questions.
Can you?
Okay, yeah.
Retype your
Rewrite all your new questions. Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about some pizza. Pineapple on
Okay.
pizza, yes or no?
Yes,
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
absolutely.
All right. It's another food question.
Ooh.
Would you rather use bacon grease as shampoo and or deodorant for the rest of your life, or use sandpaper as toilet paper for the rest of your life?
Definitely bacon grease. Because that doesn't even sound like. I mean, it might actually work for a hair product.
It might.
Just
It
wouldn't
could.
You're right.
I just the sandpaper is just absolutely out of the question. So that's,
Yeah, that's not happening. I mean, it would probably work, but you'd probably cause a lot more damage. I would assume.
Mhm.
Is
not worth it.
is cereal and milk a soup?
Mm. I love the long pause. Just the deepest
No,
question of all.
Okay.
I feel like soups are savory.
Okay.
Mm.
I can see the argument for it, but
Sure.
I think that's my criteria.
Yes. Alrighty. Would you rather have $1 million or an exact clone of yourself?
Definitely $1 million. I would hate to deal with myself.
Hate more of me.
Yeah, no, that I get it. Boy, do I get it. Would you rather have the power of flight or invisibility?
Mm.
Flight. Because I mentioned plane tickets earlier,
Mhm.
and that would just be more, more efficient.
Sure would.
Let's see this.
I feel like I feel so judged. Like I feel like I'm getting
No,
rated
no,
on like 1 to 10 on my answers.
No, I'm gonna pitch.
Okay.
I'm gonna pitch 2 DLC ideas.
Okay.
For To the Rescue right now.
All right.
Ooh.
Olivia, all right? Just take it in and then just give me a straight up yes or no.
Okay.
All right?
Uh-oh.
The first one. You find out that one of your faithful adopters is running an illegal dogfighting ring.
Oh boy.
We'll call him, Schmeichel Schmick, just
Okay.
for argument's sake.
Okay.
And you have to take your dog and bring the whole thing down. That's one
Like
deal.
Streets of
That
Rage
sounds like a
style?
new
Yeah.
game.
No, it's complimentary, Steven.
Sure.
You're building on
It's
the
a
principles of the
spin-off.
core game.
It's a
Right,
Yeah.
spin-off.
Right.
But you introduce new mechanics and vengeance. What's yeah, yes or no?
Turn-based RPG.
No.
Okay.
No.
All right,
because
that's
then,
fine.
That's
then if
fine.
you're using
That's
your
fine.
dog to enact violence, are you really any
That's
better?
fine. Well, it's true. It's true.
I mean, it's
think-
kind of could
I
be. Think of it like Pokemon.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And I think I have my answer for my next DLC pitch, which is there's like a Hills Have Eyes shit going on where the family is kidnapped by some sort of mountain cannibals.
Oh
and
my god, what is happening in
it's
this game?
you and your trusty dog have to go and, again, enact vengeance and and get them back.
Isn't that basically the Blair Witch game?
Well, the dog is with you in the Blair Witch game.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
Okay.
they're a
true.
faithful companion, but there's no real stakes. There's no babies being kidnapped and maybe going to be eaten
Okay.
at some point in the game.
Okay.
I don't know.
I'm just saying.
No.
All right.
No. Mostly just because I don't feel like very capable of making a horror game because I wouldn't be able to take myself seriously while I was.
Would you rather bathe in spaghetti with sauce,
With sauce? That's a very
Or-
important
That's
qualifier.
so horrible.
or sleep on a bed of Jello?
Would it have a sheet over it?
No, you're sleeping on just Jello.
I still think I would rather take the Jello. Because at least I don't. If I could go to sleep, it wouldn't be a problem after that.
Mm-hmm.
Because then I could take a bath the next day and wash the Jello off of me, and not in spaghetti.
Right. Right. I think that like the way I sleep, I would be inhaling Jello, because like I put my one of those situations.
Just take a chunk out of the bed.
Like, oh, what the hell was that, Andy?
The dog from Duck Hunt, euthanize immediately or euthanize sometime later?
Aw.
He is really annoying.
He is
Oh no,
annoying.
you know what? That's a tough one. How about this?
It is a tough one.
How about this? What is the star rating for the dog from Duck Hunt when he arrives in the
Ooh.
shelter?
That's a really good one. So what would his traits be?
Douche.
Just
A big old jerk.
Yeah, big old jerk would be his. I don't know. I would say his max adopted. He'd be pretty average. I would say 3.
Okay.
I've
All
met
right.
lots of big old jerk dogs that have found great homes, but based on the fact
know.
that they bring them to the dog park and harass my dogs.
He's
all
a
the
working dog, he looks
time.
healthy.
He's got a job.
Yeah, he's useful. He's just an asshole. That's all it is.
I have one. This is a good one.
That sounds a lot like me. Go on, Steven. Yes.
Give both Andy and I a positive and negative adoptability trait.
Oh, I love this already.
A positive, like one from the game.
One from the game, one positive, one negative. Like
Like
from
if
the game.
if we were each a
If
dog.
we were
in your
dogs.
game.
Oh man. Oh, this is gonna be hard. 'Cause now I'm trying to think about all the traits in the game. I'm gonna have to like tab over and open the list. One of you is probably Barky. I have a feeling about Barky.
Barky.
Yeah.
Good one. Yeah.
I'm pretty
Maybe you're
loud.
both Barky. I don't. Wait, hold on. Hold on. This is important.
Oh, that's
this
good.
is important.
It's good.
Traits. Okay.
Barky. I think
Some
that's
of
good.
these are super easy answers.
Okay.
So Barky is Andy.
Okay, Andy, you're Barky.
I'll take
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
I'll take it.
And Steven is Drooly. I'm gonna go with that.
You're
one.
not wrong. Yeah. Okay.
You mentioned the Jello thing. I
Yeah.
couldn't get that one out of my
Yeah.
head.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Okay, so those are negative traits,
Okay.
and there's not as many positive traits. So
No, there isn't, especially when you're talking about us. But
Right.
continue.
I think that's what she means.
Let's see. Steven, you're good with cats.
I am.
And
That's true.
Andy
Good with cats. That's a cool trait.
is
Hmm.
social.
The fact that it takes that
Social.
long
Social.
and it's a question mark. It just
Yeah, well,
redeems me
some of
in so
them are
many ways.
would be very strange labels to put on somebody that you don't know very well. So I'm like,
Mhm.
yeah, sure, you have mange. I don't know.
Sounds like a
Again,
personal
not
attack.
far off.
Yeah. It's like you know too much. Let's see. When you're going about your day and you're thinking about how to change the world through your awesome game that's going to give back to shelters across the world, and you're getting dressed and you're putting on your socks and your shoes
My pajamas.
in your pajamas. Is it sock, sock, shoe, shoe, or sock, shoe, sock, shoe?
Oh my gosh, it's definitely sock, sock, shoe, shoe.
Yeah.
Always.
Always.
I want to meet the
Always.
sociopath that does it the other way around.
That's what I was about to say. Like,
I
who
want
is
to.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, behind some glass, but yeah, I do want to meet that person.
Well, actually, it's more like sock, sock, croc, croc. Because I'm
Croc, nice.
Ooh,
Nice.
socks and
I heard they're
Crocs?
coming back. I heard the Crocs are like big
Yeah.
now.
This is the type of person that
Did they ever go
COVID has
away?
turned me into. Not in my household.
I
I
mean,
was gonna say.
They
I'm a
had
Crocs
a
stan.
they had
This
a
is how I'm gonna get
connotation.
canceled. So I said that how much I love Crocs publicly.
You
Yeah.
don't trust her to make a dog game. She wears Crocs.
Do you trust them to do anything?
Yeah.
Actually,
They're gonna pocket all that money. She
That's
wears
true,
Crocs.
yeah,
I know.
And buy Crocs with all of it.
All right.
One of each.
Backpack, two strap, classic backpack, shoulder strap, messenger style. Which one are you
Definitely
going with?
shoulder strap.
Oh,
I
yeah.
actually have like back problems because of how often I wore a shoulder strap heavy backpack in high school. So I just, yeah.
All right, last couple of questions, Andy.
All right, let's see this. What is a ridiculous thing someone tricked you into doing?
Ridiculous thing someone tricked me into doing. Who?
Or believing.
Or
that makes- yeah.
believing.
If that makes it easier.
I feel like that there's a lot of answers to this question that I can't think of because I feel like that happens to me all the time because I'm such like a naive person. Like
My
somebody would be
team is
like,
constantly lying to me about shit, and I'm always being fooled.
right. Let's see. Is being a game dev a valid answer?
Sure is.
You know
It
what?
sure is.
We've heard enough stories to say yes. The answer. Very
Yeah,
much
I
so.
know. I love it, but sometimes it feels like that
Why?
it was made out to be such an awesome thing, and then here I am, like staring at like changing a variable back and forth for like 7 hours and crying.
You were sold a dream, Olivia.
Yeah, I was.
All right.
Let's make games. They'll be great. I
Yeah, it'll
promise.
be wonderful. Let's all do this for a living.
Yeah, we just make games. We play games all day, right?
Yeah, that's all it is. All right, so this is gonna be the my final question. Then Andy, you'll hit it up with the ceremonial last question.
Oh man, I've been asking that one a lot lately. I feel horrible.
Well, it's weird because
I
this
do
one's
kinda like it.
the episodes are kind of jumbled. We've been recording things out of order, so it just seems that way. Okay,
Oh, whatever you want to tell yourself.
okay. What is the dumbest way you've injured yourself? This is a
So I'm
favorite.
gonna say
of ours.
I do have an answer for this one.
Okay,
I
let's go.
actually have a lot of answers for this one because as a child I don't know how I survived actually with some of the stuff that happened to me.
I think that's like what my memoir's first line's gonna sound like when it gets published. But go on.
Well, I'm trying to figure out how much of like a hillbilly redneck story I should tell, or like a relatively.
What did
like-
you try and light on fire?
I think
No,
we gotta
it-
go with the hillbilly redneck story.
Okay, I'll tell the hillbilly redneck story because so I was an only child who lived in the middle of the woods, and my grandmother's farm, which is also in the middle of nowhere, like 30 minutes down a dirt road plus sort of place. And there's this field of hay bales, right, all stacked up. One of my favorite things to do would be to run around on the top of them and like jump around on them like I was playing Frogger or something on the top of these hay bales, these round hay bales, big ones.
Doing parkour.
Anyway, there was like a gap where there's like hay bale, gap, hay bale, and I ran to jump, and then I landed on the edge, and then of course it collapsed because it's made out of hay, and then I landed on a fence post, and I stabbed myself in the stomach with a fence post,
Oh
like
my
a
God.
little metal pole, like fence post. And I had to like lay on a couch bleeding until my mom came in like an hour later.
Goodness.
You bled
Yeah.
out for an hour? Oh my God,
Yeah.
the couch!
It was pretty bad. Yeah, it was pretty bad. I think I was like 9 when this happened.
How
Yeesh.
bad was the damage? I'm just curious now.
It wasn't as bad as it like was.
Was it all superficial? Did you
Yeah,
hit
I
any
mean, it
organs?
it went like, it didn't like it didn't go like all the way through my body. It like stabbed like an inch into me. And
God, yikes.
And you said you couldn't do horror. You have
You-
the
I know.
You got it.
I could just.
That's your
recreate
superhero
that.
moment. That's your origin
Right.
moment.
Yeah.
You're
It
now
is,
Hey
it
Girl.
is. I became.
That's it. You figured it out.
It's like the worst.
Oh no.
It's like the worst possible.
That's like how to command your respect in the superhero world. Oh look, it's
God.
Hey Girl. That's all.
Hey Girl.
Not say hi to her.
That's like that makes me think of like in My Hero Academia, the anime, how there's definitely
Mhm.
people who
Yeah.
have quirks that are really boring things.
Sure.
Like mine would be that I can like control hay or something.
I
You
don't
can
know.
find them in the haystack. That's what you can do.
Yeah,
Yes.
That's your special
every
ability.
time.
Every time. All
Maybe
right.
it'd make me better at coding.
Andy,
Mhm.
it's time now to
I
hit
think
us up.
It's more metaphorical. You're good at finding shit.
Yeah,
but
there
that's
it
like
is.
what
There-
they say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
see, yeah, exactly.
Like, where did my sock go? Like, let's call up Hey Girl and
it's
she'll
over
find it.
there.
Hey Girl
yeah.
got it.
Nice. How'd you not know where the fuck it was? All right, let's go to the last question. My favorite question, because it's such an awkward question and it
Oh,
puts
But
all
very,
the pressure
very, very important.
squarely on the person we're talking to. It is very important.
Mm-hmm.
Is that an easy choice? It's like when you walk into a shelter and you see a dog and you make the connection and you just know
Mm-hmm.
you want that puppy.
Mm-hmm.
This is a little bit more deeper than that. It commands more thought, I would hope so, to reach the
I
proper
feel like I need to do my stretches before this one.
decision. And Olivia, that question, the final question, is the following choice. And that is, as I stare at you in the camera right now with my deep blue eyes, Andy or Steven?
Interpret this how you want.
Exactly.
There's,
Like, I would actually say internalize their interpretation and think about it,
Mhm.
and then give the answer. And we don't know what you're doing with us and why you've chosen.
And I don't even have to tell you what.
I would say,
Why?
yeah, just it's Andy or Steven.
Wow, this is a lot. I feel like this is like a jigsaw type of
Mm.
question.
Uh-huh.
Like,
uh-huh.
make your
Mhm.
choice.
Do you want to play a game? You have just fallen on the metal rod, but the key is sewn into your dog.
Steven?
Nailed
is.
it. Nailed
There
it.
it is.
There it is.
There it is.
Nailed it. God, Andy, it's just so nice when I get those big dubs.
It does feel good, right?
Hang those
It might not
dubs.
be a
Good.
dub. It's probably
Oh, that's true. Yeah, you gotta
Oh.
worry about that.
Oh,
Ladies and
all
gentlemen,
right.
that's going to bring us to the end of the show. We want to thank our Patreon producers, which
I
you...
think she said she's gonna euthanize you. What she
It-
really means.
listen,
Like,
if
that's how I'm interpreting it.
We only have one kennel. I
That's
don't know.
fair. That's fair. I get it. I get it. The old yeller. Bring me out back, I guess. That's going to bring us to the end of the show. We want to thank our Patreon producers, which you could support us on Patreon by going to patreon.com/NDS podcast. Thank you, Vegas Girl on Fire, FNH Paul, and Colton the Apprentice Nestler. We cannot continue to grow without all of your support. So thank you so much for doing that. If you want to follow us on social media, we are at duel_screens on Twitter, at duel screens on Instagram. I am at Batchild27. Andy's at Pants Guy. And our Facebook group is facebook.com/groups/DS podcast. You can watch us on Twitch on twitch.tv/dual screen streams. And again, our YouTube channel is youtube.com/dual screens TV. And To the Rescue, you could find on Twitter at To the Rescue Game. You could find it on Steam. Just look for To the Rescue. You could wishlist it and all that fun stuff. And the website, totherescuegame.com. Is there anywhere else people could find you, Olivia?
That about covers it. But you can also join us on Discord to ask questions about the game
Cool.
at discord.gg/LRG.
Awesome.
There you go.
Thank you so much, listeners. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Olivia. Thank you, world, and thank you, shelters, for doing what you do. You're doing very, very good work out there, and we appreciate that. And as always, listeners, please be excellent to each other.